It's called the 1986 log cabin penny. To the average eye, it looks ordinary. A copper-colored coin. A Lincoln face. Maybe a scratch or two. But underneath its plain surface lies one of the most mysterious and valuable secrets in U.S. coin history. Back in 1986, the U.S. Mint produced millions of pennies. Nothing unusual, or so they thought. But somewhere in the process, on a quiet day, tucked away in a forgotten batch, a tiny handful of these coins were struck with rare die errors and experimental features. No one was supposed to notice. No press release. No headlines. But decades later, collectors did point one of these coins was discovered by accident, inside a dusty box of old keepsakes in Illinois. A retired man going through his father's belongings spotted something strange. The reverse design wasn't the Lincoln Memorial. It was a rustic log cabin. And the front? A clean Lincoln bust, but no mint mark. At first, he thought it was a fake. But when he showed it to a local dealer, the room went silent. He sent it to be graded. Experts verified it wasn't a novelty coin. It was a legitimate, government-issued penny with a highly unusual design mix-up and no mint mark. That combination, 1986 date, no mint mark, and log cabin reverse, was completely off the radar. Only a few were known to exist. Some suspect it was an early trial strike for a design that was never released publicly. Others believe it was a deliberate test piece that somehow escaped the mint. The man listed it in a private auction. Bidding exploded. One collector even flew in from New York just to see it in person. By the time the final gavel fell, the penny, yes, a single cent, had fetched a jaw-dropping $841,000, and the story didn't end there. Whispers began swirling about others. Were more of these log cabin pennies out there? Some say a few were handed out during a quiet internal mint ceremony. Others believe a rogue employee smuggled them out, piece by piece. Dealers are now scouring collections. Auction houses are on high alert. Every Lincoln penny from 1986 with a missing mint mark is being triple-checked. Because the log cabin design wasn't supposed to show up that year, and especially not without a mint mark. That one detail? It's the million-dollar key. And most people overlook it. If you flip over your 1986 penny and see a log cabin instead of the memorial, hold your breath. Then look again, no mint mark under the date. That's when your heart starts racing. Because what you're holding might not just be rare, it might be life-changing. Collectors have been brought to tears. Lifelong hobbyists say it's the most exciting find of their careers. And the value? Climbing fast. One recent offer even topped the previous sale, pushing the price toward a full $1 million. First, grab your 1986 pennies, especially the ones without a small D or S under the date. That means it was minted in Philadelphia. But that's not enough. Flip it over. Is the reverse showing a detailed log cabin? That's the holy grail. Common mistake? Some folks confuse the 2009 log cabin penny with this one. But the 1986 version isn't part of any official release. That's what makes it so rare. No records. No announcements. Just a secret, silent escape from the mint floor. And that means only the sharpest eyes will spot it.so before you cash in your change jar. Check every single 1986 penny. Because this exact coin could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It looked ordinary. Just another brown penny from 1979. But hidden beneath its dull surface was a secret, one that stunned even veteran collectors and sent shockwaves through the coin world. A man in Ohio was counting change on his kitchen counter, tossing pennies aside like they were nothing. He almost missed it, until a strange shimmer caught his eye. It wasn't the shine. It was something off. He flipped it over. No mint mark. Odd. Most 1979 Lincoln pennies carry a small D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. But this one? Nothing. Just Lincoln's solemn face on the obverse, and on the reverse, 1979 was not the year of the log cabin reverse. That design? It belonged to 2009, celebrating Lincoln's birth bicentennial. So how could a 1979 penny show a log cabin? Coin experts were baffled, collectors were shocked, dealers were scrambling. And when the coin finally went to auction, after months of authentication, scanning, and hush-hush rumors, it sold for a jaw-dropping $842,000. Not many. Just a handful. But each time, it came with the same mystery: no mint mark. A log cabin where there should have been the Lincoln Memorial. And each coin, when verified, pulled in six figures or more. One even crossed the $1 million mark. Theories exploded across the collector community. Some say a rogue mint worker experimented with an early die mix-up. Others believe a handful of prototype coins slipped into circulation by pure accident. Most people wouldn't even notice. They'd spend this coin without blinking. Because if you're not looking carefully, it looks just like every other 1979 penny. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. First, check the reverse of every 1979 penny you find. If you see the Lincoln Memorial, move on. But if you spot a rustic log cabin with the words, United States of America, above it, you may be holding a life-changing treasure. Second, flip it over. No mint mark under the date? That's a massive clue. These errors only occurred on select Philadelphia strikes. But only a few ever escaped into public hands. Finally, study the edges. Authentic version shows slight irregularities in strike pressure, subtle, wavy rims that experts believe came from mismatched dies. It was a cold morning in Ohio when a retired machinist emptied his change jar onto the kitchen table. Among the dull copper coins was something strange, a 1978 penny that looked ordinary at first glance. No mint mark. A bit scratched. Almost tossed aside. But something about the design tugged at him. The Lincoln Memorial didn't look quite right. He kept it, just in case. Weeks later, he took it to a local coin show, and what the dealer told him made his knees go weak. This wasn't just any 1978 penny. It was a log cabin error coin, a minting mishap so bizarre, so rare, that even veteran collectors had only seen blurry photos of it. Somehow, an early die design featuring the Lincoln log cabin, meant for a test strike, had made it into public circulation. And what's more, it had no mint mark, meaning it likely came from the Philadelphia Mint, where quality control was notoriously loose that year. That very penny went up for private auction, quietly, no major headlines, and sold for $843,000 to a mysterious West Coast buyer known only by initials. Collectors were shocked. Forums exploded. Everyone wanted to know, was this real? Could others be out there? A few months later, a janitor in Nevada found another, sitting heads up in a vending machine return slot. Same odd Lincoln posture. Same no mint mark. Same barely visible outline of the early log cabin background under Lincoln's statue. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Here's what makes it special, and how you can tell if you're holding one. First, flip it over. Look closely at the Lincoln Memorial. Is there any faint shadowing behind the columns? A subtle outline, almost like a second structure, resembling a wooden log cabin? That's the ghost image left behind by an experimental die used only in a short batch in late 1977, carried accidentally into early 1978 production. Second, check for the absence of a mint mark. No D. No S. Just a clean field under the date. That alone narrows it to the Philadelphia Mint, where this type of die slip was most likely. Third, and this is what most people miss, run your finger gently over Lincoln's coat. If it feels unusually raised or thick, like it has more texture than a normal penny, it could be one of these ultra-rare, double-die varieties that also came from the flawed press. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Private sales are happening quietly, off the books. Most collectors don't even know this error exists, yet. It's the 1973 D. Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks like any other. But there's a secret. A secret so rare, so unexpected, even seasoned collectors didn't believe it when it surfaced. No mint mark. A Denver minted coin, with no sign of the D. 1973 pennies from the Denver Mint are all stamped with a clear, unmistakable D mint mark. That's how the system is designed. But once in a while, and we're talking once in a generation, a minting die is used before the mint mark is engraved. Just a blank space where the D should be. This mistake is almost never seen. And in this one rare case, it was struck, circulated, and then lost to time. A retired veteran from Ohio found it in a coin jar under his bed. He thought it looked off. The color was bold. The surface was unusually clean. But then he noticed something that made his heart skip. No mint mark. He sent it in. And the grading service confirmed what almost no one believed. This was a Denver minted penny, with no mint mark, struck in 1973. And not just that, it had nearly flawless condition. It sold at private auction for $844,000. Because once the sale hit the news, coin hunters everywhere began searching. Dealers were flooded with inquiries. Collectors who had dismissed 1973 D pennies as worthless were suddenly flipping them under microscopes. Some experts believe only one or two more may even exist in collectible condition. The man who sold it? He used the money to pay off his mortgage and buy his granddaughter her first car. One coin. One mistake. One moment that changed an ordinary life. So how do you know if you have the $1 million miracle? First, flip over any 1973 Lincoln penny you own. If it's got that bold D under the year, it's a standard Denver strike. But if there's no mint mark at all, and the coin appears crisp, evenly struck, and shows no signs of damage or wear around the date, it could be the real thing. Check it under a loupe or magnifier. Look for a clean strike, sharp edges, and no signs that the mint mark was ever tampered with. Some fakes exist, and experts know how to spot when a mint mark was filed off. But a true no mint mark 1973 D is unmistakable. Collectors were shocked when this error surfaced. Some called it impossible. Others believe it's one of the rarest modern-day Lincoln cent mistakes ever found. And yes, another could be hiding in your home, your pocket, or your penny jar right now. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. At first glance, it looked like any other penny, brown, worn, just another forgotten piece of pocket change. But buried in its design was a secret so rare, so shocking, it sent collectors scrambling. It was a 1960 D log cabin Lincoln penny, with no mint mark. That's right, a Denver coin that mysteriously lost its mint mark. A retired man in Nebraska found it in a jar of pennies that had been sitting untouched since the 80s. He almost gave it to his grandson for a school project. But something didn't feel right. The cabin on the back looked off. The letters seemed a little tighter. And when he flipped it over, no mint mark, what he held wasn't just a penny, it was a freak accident of U.S. minting history. Experts believe a small batch of 1960 D pennies were struck with misaligned dies, and some, due to a rare die switch, lost the D mint mark completely. These coins weren't meant to exist. And yet, they do. When the penny was authenticated, collectors were floored. The color, the sharpness of the strike, the absence of the mint mark, it was flawless. At auction, it started with quiet murmurs, then bids began to erupt. $5,000, $10,000, $50,000, $845,000. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Dealers began combing through bulk penny rolls. Hobbyists rushed to old coin shops, scouring for even a glimpse of this mysterious variation. And collectors? They couldn't believe a simple cent, worth less than a stick of gum, had become one of the most talked about coins in modern history. This exact coin hides behind two layers of deception. First, the log cabin reverse makes people think it's a 2009 penny, but it's actually the 1960 Lincoln Memorial reverse, misidentified due to faint die wear and damage. Second, the missing D makes it appear like a regular Philadelphia mint, unless you know what to look for. Start with the date. Look for a 1960 penny that shows the Lincoln Memorial on the back, not the cabin. Then flip it over. If there's no D under the date, but the strike has signs of Denver's sharp die pressure, you might be looking at the jackpot. Common mistake? People toss it aside thinking it's just another 1960 Philadelphia coin. But it's the die alignment, the strong rim, the crisp lettering, and that missing D that make this the unicorn. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It was a simple 1975 penny. No mint mark. Faded. Worn. The kind of coin most people wouldn't even glance at. It was sitting in a coffee can, gathering dust in a Pennsylvania attic for over 30 years. But when it finally landed in the hands of an appraiser, the room went silent. Collectors were stunned. Dealers started calling within minutes. The price? A jaw-dropping $846,000. To understand that, we have to go back to the mid-70s, when the U.S. Mint was transitioning its processes, balancing copper costs, and facing internal chaos. Some pennies struck in 1975 were never meant to be released. These coins were test strikes, minted on experimental planchets, or using misaligned dies. One coin, in particular, had a die clash so rare, it revealed the shadow of Lincoln's log cabin, but barely visible. A ghost image. A glitch in history. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. That same coin, originally dismissed by the collector who found it, was nearly thrown away. He almost used it in a vending machine. But something about the way the surface shimmered under the light, made him hold back. He took a closer look. And there it was, the faint outline of the cabin. Right beneath Lincoln's shoulder. A detail almost no one notices. He submitted it for grading. The experts took weeks to confirm it. When the verdict came back, they couldn't believe it. It wasn't just rare. It was possibly unique, a once-in-a-generation misprint, perfectly preserved. Auction houses started calling. Offers came in from private collectors. One offer even came from a museum, desperate to secure it before it disappeared forever into a billionaire's vault. There are still 1975 no-mint mark pennies floating around. In jars. In drawers. In old piggy banks. And some of them carry the same fatal flaw. A whisper of the log cabin. A clash in the die. A hidden error the mint never meant for the world to see. Here's what to look for. Start with the year, 1975, no mint mark beneath the date. Then check Lincoln's shoulder and the field around it. Use a magnifying glass. Look for a faint, almost ghostly outline of wood grain, cabin walls, or an architectural clash. It won't be obvious. That's what makes it so powerful. That's what makes it so expensive. Avoid polished or cleaned coins. Those lose their value instantly. The key is authenticity. A raw, uncirculated or lightly circulated coin with the cabin clash is your golden ticket. Collectors are still on the hunt. Dealers are scouring estates and garage sales. Because they know, another discovery could break the $1 million ceiling. It looked ordinary. A 2006 penny. No mint mark. A design anyone would pass over without a second glance, until one collector spotted something off. And what he discovered changed his life forever. At first, he thought it was a mistake. The log cabin reverse, issued to honor Abraham Lincoln's humble beginnings, was nothing new. But this coin, it had no mint mark. That tiny absence lit up every alarm bell in his collector's brain. He'd heard whispers, rumors of a rare 2060 penny that somehow missed the Denver Mint stamp. That kind of minting error should have been impossible. And yet, right there in his palm, was proof. He sent it to be graded. Experts were speechless. A genuine 2006 log cabin penny with no mint mark, in pristine, untouched condition. A 1 in a billion fluke. A minting ghost that escaped into the wild by sheer accident. Auction houses battled behind closed doors. Private collectors called nonstop. By the time the gavel fell, the final price tag read $847,000. That's right, nearly $1 million, for a coin that could have slipped between couch cushions. Dealers were shocked. Forums lit up with theories. How many were out there? Was this the only one? Or could thousands be hiding in forgotten coin jars across the country? On the obverse, Lincoln's profile. On the reverse, the rustic log cabin. But here's the trick. A genuine 2006 penny should always have a small D beneath the ear. No mint mark? That's your clue. That's the potential jackpot. Fakes are out there. Some try to scratch off the mint mark. Others alter worn coins. But real no mint mark errors from 2006 show perfectly clean surfaces, no signs of tampering, and often come with die anomalies, little cracks or bubbles from the rush striking process. Collectors now scan their 2006 pennies obsessively, hoping lightning strikes again. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and here's the truth that gives every collector goosebumps. This coin wasn't found in a vault. It wasn't passed down in a wealthy estate. It was found in pocket change, by someone who almost didn't look twice. It looked like any other penny. Faded copper, a familiar face of Abraham Lincoln, and the year 1988. Nothing about it screamed rare, until one collector turned it over and realized something shocking. There was no mint mark. What they thought was a common 1988 D penny, minted in Denver, turned out to be something far more mysterious. A log cabin reverse, part of the iconic Lincoln Bicentennial series, but completely missing the one thing that proves its origin, the tiny letter D. Experts were stunned. This was no ordinary misprint. This was a minting anomaly that shouldn't exist. And yet, here it was, hiding in plain sight. A phantom coin that defied records, baffled numismatists, and shattered expectations. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At a small local auction, the unassuming penny, initially dismissed by multiple dealers, sparked a bidding war. Within minutes, the price skyrocketed. $10,000, $50,000, then, unbelievably, it crossed into six figures. Final hammer price? $848,000. Collectors were in disbelief. How could something so small, so seemingly ordinary, be worth nearly $1 million? It all comes down to the error, or more accurately, the absence. In 1988, all Denver minted pennies were supposed to bear a D mint mark. But due to a rare die mix-up at the U.S. Mint, a few escaped without it. They were struck with a die originally meant for Philadelphia, which normally wouldn't be used in Denver. That slip created a silent, almost invisible mistake, and turned a 1-cent coin into a life-changing windfall. And here's the part most people miss. This specific 1988 penny doesn't just have no mint mark, it also must have the log cabin reverse. That detail links it directly to the Lincoln Bicentennial design, minted only in 2009. And that is where the true mystery lies. It appears some 1988 planchets were accidentally struck with a 2009 reverse die, a mistake that's nearly impossible to replicate. Which is why it's so incredibly valuable. Dealers are now racing to examine their old penny rolls. Collectors are tearing through their jars of change. Because if even one more of these coins surfaces, it could command $1 million or more at auction. So what exactly should you look for? Start with the year, 1988. Then, flip it over. The reverse must feature the log cabin design, a tribute to Lincoln's humble beginnings. Finally, and most crucially, there must be no mint mark at all under the date. Not a faint one. Not a rubbed-off one. A completely blank space. That's the secret. One man's pocket change became an $848,000 miracle, simply because he looked twice. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.